Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Wheels. We are the show that champions all riders from world champs to weekend warriors, where everyone has their story to tell. And today we are joined by the prodigious talent that is Anna Dubier. She's a great rider. She was last year's junior road race champion for Australia, so clearly got some amazing potential, but amazing ability already. She's a great person, and yeah, it was a pleasure to talk to her. There is some heavy topics that we do talk about related to one of her friends who lost their life in a traffic collision. The time code for that will be on screen now, so you can avoid it if that is something you need to avoid. But otherwise, do sit back, enjoy, and listen to Anna Dubier, who do be a good rider indeed. Hi, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you feeling?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. This is so amazing. It's one of my first podcasts, so I'm really excited.
That is amazing. Like, I always like that, chatting to someone who's established is great, but also chatting to someone who's kind of up and coming and fresh on the scene feels pretty cool too. So, yeah, it's great and great to speak to an Australian rider. We've had a few, so it's become like a second home to me. And I'll be honest, like, I'm a bit of a nerd for Australian culture. Certainly, like, your TV shows are amazing. And now this is where I'd make a huge blunder and say something that's a Kiwi show, like, but I'm hoping it's not. Like, I kind of low-key love Neighbours. I don't watch it a lot, but the episodes I've seen are amazing.
Okay, well, I'm not a TV watcher at all. I'm definitely
Are you
more
not?
of a movie, and I'm not that into Australian TV shows at all either. So,
Honestly, like, I've got kids, so because of them, I'm allowed to watch Bluey. I mean, if
yeah,
I'd found it by chance, like, I probably would watch it on my own. I think I have watched it on my own a few times, but, like, they've gone to bed and it's still on. I'm like, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to watch another episode. I mean, it's on the TV. I can't change it.
it's too much to do.
Yeah, exactly. And like, also, like, my kids love the Wiggles, which I know are like deep Australian culture.
That
Like,
that was that was my brother's biggest show. He loved the Wiggles when he was growing up.
really,
Yeah.
were you not so into it, or?
I was not a Wiggles person at all. I had no interest. I only liked, I don't even remember his name, but I only liked the guy that used to sleep a lot. that,
Jeff,
that was,
Jeff the
yeah,
Purple
yeah,
Wiggle.
yeah, that was my favorite character.
So, right, I've watched the Wiggles documentary, which is really good, by the way, on Amazon, and not a plug for it, by the way. I'm not paid by them or anything. But like, he said, the reason he did the sleeping bit was because he was just rubbish at dancing, and they were like, well, what can we do with him? Like, oh, he can pretend to sleep a lot, and that's how he got round like his inability at dancing. Was just like,
I
oh,
would
I'll
love
just
that.
pretend to sleep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
you
take
just
that
get
job.
shouted at. It's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
uh, so yeah, we've already digressed, which is amazing. So I'd like to rewind a little and just be like, how did you even get into cycling? Like, what's your journey?
Okay, so cycling is not huge in Australia at all in comparison to Europe. So it's very, very niche here. I originally, when I was younger, I did a lot of sports. I did like athletics, swimming, soccer. I don't know if you call it football, we call it soccer. I
Hmm.
did a lot of different sports growing up. So I sort of tried a bit of everything. I was a really good sort of middle distance runner in athletics. And I got into cycling because my dad was actually a national track champion in India. So he was good on the track and he was also good on the road. Pretty sure he was national champion in the points race and he got a silver medal in the elite pursuit um, at national. So good rider. And my mum went to the world championships in triathlon. So I come from a very sporting background, so it's very much in my genes. And I got into cycling through my dad, who sort of like pushed it onto my brother and I. And I got a brother who still rides and still competes and everything. And I would get dragged along to all of his races, and I would be made to sit and watch his races and sit and watch the track. And I got quite bored, and I saw that he was winning like the local prize money as like at the local criteriums, and I also wanted money, and I sort of like didn't really like being left out of things. So I started riding and I started competing. Roughly 8 years old, 9 years old, I was racing and competing while still doing athletics. And then it's sort of, as I got older and everything, you sort of had to make the decision whether you were fully committing to athletics or fully committing to cycling. And I was pretty good at, I would say equally good at both in terms of level and what results I was getting. So it was a hard decision to make, but I chose cycling because it was just my dad's passion and it sort of rubbed off on me. So yeah, and then after that we just kept competing.
Wow. And I mean, you've gone really far with it so far. Like you're the Aussie champion at junior level, which is
Yes.
amazing. Like that kit looks so good, by the way. Like I can, I mean, don't tell the national board, but I kind of prefer the junior version to the elite. Like the elite is almost too white and too clean, and like I like the dark green bands, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's just got a bit about it that looks better.
I think it stands out a little bit more. I think when you have the green and then the darker green, not many teams have the darker green in pro pelotons, just pelotons in general. And I think there's a bit
Hmm.
more of like, wow, it's something there. Sort of easier
Yeah,
to spot.
how sorry. How was it to actually win it? Because was it a 9-up sprint? I think.
It was it was a bit of a reduced bunch sprint. It was sort of a big field. When you looked at it like on the photos and even the results, I think the first nine were on the same time and then it sort of went to like 3 10 seconds. It was a very long sprint and it it finished on top of this hill. So you had like this about 300 meters before the finish line, there was this steep sort of kick up all of a sudden. It went to about 9% for a good maybe 30 seconds. And then it was like, it sort of flattened out, but it was a bit of a false flat towards the finish. And the sprint finish was probably, it went early, and I think it was roughly a 1.5 minute sprint finish when it like first kicked off. Someone early, so everyone just strung out. So that's how you see the little time gaps. It was just stringed out, and I was in a very good position. Um, I think I turned the left corner. There was a left corner. It was about 250 meters, 300 meters from the finish line. This left corner, and the most bit I was nervous about in that entire sprint finish was the fact that I needed to change from my little chainring to my big chainring after going up that hill. And I was so nervous about taking that corner and it just dropping or like not changing properly. But it did change. And I think I came around that corner in fourth wheel. And yeah, it was a very good sort of lead out, I would say. I was brought up to pace and I probably came off the wheel with about 100 meters to go. So it was very good positioning on my part, if I do say so myself. Um, but yeah, and then crossing the finish line, Perth was such a good atmosphere. That's where the race was, and you just had such a local crowd, and the views were really really pretty from there because you just climbed roughly about a kilometer and a half hill beforehand, and it was such a good atmosphere. It was a great feeling.
Oh, that's amazing. I've got so many questions already just spinning off of that. Like, firstly, like, I've had that happen in a race where I've like tried to change ring and it just dropped. I had the other way. I was on a climb and tried to change from the outer to the inner ring, and it just dropped and wrapped itself around the ball bearing part, and
Yeah,
or
and
bottom bracket, I guess is a proper thing. Um, I believe I had to get off, and I did scream, "Oh golly, this is not what I wanted," or words to that effect. Don't quote me on the exact words. But yeah, like going into the race, were you targeting it and going, "Yeah, this is a race I feel I can win, it's one I want to win, or like what was the mood ahead of things?
I think what sums it up pretty much was I was on the night before the road race, I was walking up the stairs and my like accommodation, heading to my room, and my dad was sitting on the couch in like the living room watching TV. And I was walking up the stairs and I stopped halfway and I turned to my dad and I was like, "What if I get dropped off the hill tomorrow?" And my dad just laughed. And I wasn't extremely confident. I was very nervous on that hill, on like how hard the girls would go and how hard they would attack it. It's very much a sort of track hill, I would say. It's sort of a punchy, like 2 minute effort, 3 minute effort, depending on how long they drag out the attack. And but the only real hard bit was that final steep 30-second kicker. But if they had attacked like a K beforehand and it just kept going and going and going, then there could have been like a huge problem. I was not very confident in myself on making it up that hill and just surviving. But I sort of got into the race and people were fighting for the QAM points, which we have a QAM in our road nationals and we have the most combatives. We have different sections. And they were fighting for the QAM points going up that hill, and I was sort of sitting like fifth wheel. I had no interest in the QAM points. National jersey is what I wanted. And I was sitting there and I was like, you know what, like I'm actually feeling okay. Like the other girls are like full fighting for these points. And I'm like, no, I'm actually like it's hurting, but it's not as I wasn't as much pain as I was thinking I was gonna be in. And I think that gave me the confidence. Then I was like, no, I'm actually feeling all right. That road race sort of played into my hands and sort of the track riders, the track endurance riders, and you'd classify them as road sprinters because it was sort of the hill was the hardest bit. Like everyone went quite hard up that hill, and then everywhere else on the course, because it was laps, everywhere else on the course it was really relaxed. It was like suddenly you would stress out this hill, you have to make it up, and then everywhere else it was just thinking about the hill that you have to go up again. So it turned into a little bit of a negative race in terms of not many attacks. It was just a lot of watching and looking at sort of the track riders, and they weren't going to attack because they didn't need to. So yeah, it was just I wasn't confident going into it, but I sort of got the confidence in the race and just watching the other riders fight for the QAM points, and I was like, you know what, I'm doing okay.
I guess then, how far into the race or how close to the finish were you when you started to believe that you could be the winner that day? Was it like, oh, lap one going up the hill, you're like, actually, I've got this? Or was it much closer to the finish?
No, much closer. it was about maybe 200 meters before the line. In the criterium, I let out the sprint like the day before. In the criterium, that sort of evening, I let out the sprint, and I just got rolled on the line by Amelie, one of the riders, and her and I were pretty on par in like the sort of the sprint finishing. Her positioning is also really, really good, and she's got a really good sprint on her, and she's a very, very good rider. And I was sort of nervous in the sense of her as well coming into that finish, because I was thinking, you know, if I'm feeling good and, you know, if I'm doing okay, I know that she's also going to be doing okay, and that her sprint is also very good because it matched mine and it beat mine the day before. So I was very, very nervous in that sense. And then also anyone taking a long flyer and not forcing me to chase. I didn't want to be forced to chase early in the sprint and then be stuck on the front. So yeah, I was only certain about 200 meters to go when Amelie launched her sprint, and I was able to follow, and I was actually still feeling okay on her wheel, and then I was able to pop around. So it was about, yeah, only 200 meters. I definitely thought sort of maybe with about 2 laps to go, when I didn't really think anything was going to stick or no breakaway was going to happen, I sort of felt, you know what, there's definitely a medal that can be in my hands here. I think that's definitely doable. I wasn't sure what color it was going to be, but I thought to myself, yeah, definitely a medal is quite possible. But yeah, only 200 meters to go. I thought, yeah, this is mine. I get the bands.
That's crazy. Like, to be honest, I'd still be nervous that like 1 meter to go. Like, unless I'm across that line, I'd feel like, what if, like, I don't know, some mad puncture that just invisible force field that I'm not allowed to cross. Yeah, like such a. I mean, you paint an incredible picture of a race, and it sounds great. Like, I did what I can't get my head around, and possibly because I've never been to your standard of riding, is like following someone who's doing a full out sprint and feeling comfortable, or not comfortable, but you know what I mean, knowing that you're
Yeah,
not at
feeling,
full chat.
feeling like feeling like you still got that extra little kick in you, and that extra little like,
Yeah,
you know what, if I step out of this draft, I'm still gonna be okay. Like there's many times in sprints, especially on the track, where you're like on the wheel and the rider in front of you is going full out for a sprint, and you're like, yeah, I've got this is fine. And then as soon as you step out of the draft, and you just go backwards. But in this scenario, I was like, you know what, if I step out of the draft, I'm gonna be okay. So
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's just mad. And also, well, another thing that's mad for me is like just the distance you'd have to travel. Because as I understand it, you're from like New South Wales, which is
Yes,
one side
correct.
of Australia, if my geography's vaguely correct.
Yes.
And Perth, like that's a long way away. Like I've got family who live Lake Argyle area, like north of Western Australia, and it's
No,
like
it's
right on that borderline. Yeah, um, but like their local hospital is Perth, which is like 18-hour drive or something stupid
yeah.
for a local. Like New South Wales obviously is further away than that. Like how do you have to like travel the week ahead? Like do you take a flight? Like how do you even get to a nationals?
Perth is a 5 hour flight, depending on
Jesus.
wind and everything, but it's roughly a 5 hour flight. So it's 2 hours. Oh no, maybe depending on daylight savings, it's either 2 or 3 hours behind us.
God.
So we also have a time zone there difference as well. I think we came to Perth roughly 3 or 4 days before my time trial. I know that there was many people that came. Like our nationals was sort of like 7th of January. Something started there early January,
Mm.
and I know that there was people that came like just after New Year's, or even just after Christmas. Like there was people that came really early. Um, I think I came roughly 3 or 4 days before, and that was pretty good just to adjust sort of to the time zone. It's not a crazy time zone difference. Like I think it was only 3 hours at that time, so it wasn't anything massive. The flight does take it out of you a bit, and I think just having those 3 or 4 days before just got over that sort of travel and everything. Our previous nationals used to be in Victoria, and we used to drive to Victoria, and that was roughly, I think it's roughly a 9 hour drive, but if you factor in all the
Mm.
stops and everything, it turns closer to 11 hours. So it's always been a little bit of a hike for nationals. Australia is a very big place, and I think people underestimate how big it is.
Oh god, yeah, like it's yeah, it's just truly wild how big it is, and obviously, like for anyone living in Hobart in like Tasmania, that's even harder because like you got to cross water to get anywhere,
Yeah,
like,
you have to get your boat.
and you're like, well, you could say, oh, it's the equivalent of living on the Isle of Man, which is like in between the UK and Ireland. But even then, it's not the same. Like it is a world of difference. I don't know how you do it, especially because then you spend half your year racing in Europe, um,
Yep.
and yeah, like let's talk about, was it Bredena was the one you took? I think it was Bredena. Let me check. I do have it up
In
on.
Europe,
Yeah, you raced in Belgium and got a win.
yes, I got
Oh, Kronbecker, sorry.
yes.
I,
That's
I,
correct.
I don't know why I
Yes.
had Bredena on my mind. Kronbecker, like, that was a two-up, essentially. Like, you and the teammate
Yeah.
got away and held everyone off. and Liani did definitely do turns. I'm
Yes,
assured of that.
100%. Yeah, she
But
did.
like, what was that race like for you? Because yeah, it looked incredible. The video I've seen of like little clips of it, and getting to win with a teammate in tow must have felt nice.
Yeah, it was definitely it wasn't really the plan. I sort of made it up in not really in the middle of the race. We sort of attacked with roughly 56k to go, which looking back at it was a terrible idea on my part because I didn't want to suffer for 56k's. Um, but I sort of was watching like the breakaways, and we had a team of 7 girls in that race.
Mm.
So we had a really strong presence of our team, and I was like, you know what? I'm watching these breakaways go, and whenever one of our riders went in it, and obviously we wouldn't chase, and it would take them like the bunch just a while to bring them back. So I was
Mm.
looking at Liani, and I was talking to Armley and a couple of the other girls, and I was like, you know what? What if two of us go together because we both know that we're 100% going to commit and work together. We don't have to sort of argue amongst other riders. And Liani was keen, and we went after one of the prims. She attacked, and I followed her, and we broke away for about an hour and a half. And I don't really like to suffer for an hour and a half. That was sort of a terrible idea. But yeah, we had a solid gap, and I think we sort of needed to relax a little bit earlier. That would have been nice if we just we were both kind of stressed that all of a sudden our 2 minute gap would suddenly jump to like 10 seconds, like out of
Mm.
nowhere. You know, when you're in that breakaway and you're like, oh, there's a possibility I can win, you just go full gas and just keep the pressure on even when your gap is over 2 minutes and it's only like 10k's to go and there's no chance of them catching you and you're still going full gas. But Liani and I worked very well together, and I was quite thankful that she let me have that win, and you know we both got to cross the line together. And yeah, I think winning with your teammate is a really special moment, especially when it's just you two off the front, and it was just a whole team effort in that race.
Yeah, like how does that conversation even go? Like, I guess again, like how close to the finish are you going? Okay, one of us is going to win it. Like, how do we want to do it? Like, because we've seen there was a clip from I want to say the Tour of Slovenia once where like they did rock paper scissors to decide because there's like two
That's pretty
UAE
funny.
riders. And, like, how did you two decide, and like how close to the finish was that conversation starting?
I think it's always a tough conversation, especially maybe not in the professional world, but when you're both under 19s and you're both wanting to try to make an impact and win as many races as you can to get your name out. That's a very tough conversation to look at your teammate and go, hey, listen, I really want to win this race. What are we going to do here? It probably happened about a kilometer from the line. Um,
Okay.
I sort of rolled up next to her and I was like, listen, I really want this race. Like this will mean so much to me if you would let me have it. And she was like, yeah, I was gonna give it to you from the beginning. So I was really thankful for that. And I didn't get to pay it back to her, and I remember I haven't paid it back to her yet about just her letting me have it because I had to quickly duck home and train for junior worlds. But yeah, so I'm still remembering that, and we're actually going to be in the same team together next year in Belgium again. So if you see Liani up on the top step, it's going to be full commitment. Definitely going to help her out there because I owe her for that.
Yeah, that's wonderful that she was like you both got the outcome you wanted anyway, and that you kind of agreed. Because yeah, I could imagine that conversation going really kind of badly or like
Yeah.
been really difficult. Like, yeah, I don't know how I'd play it in that situation either. Like, do you know, like, yeah, because again, like, apparently there's a long time ago. There's a British rider doing a crit in Belgium, and it was like his team boss is like was close by or is local for him technically via his team, but the other rider wanted to yeah, the other rider wanted to win it, and the British guy was like, "Look, if I pay you 400, like, will you let me take the win?" Or and like he kept up in the ante and kept getting knocked back. So then he was like so angry that he couldn't buy the win that he just won anyway, and like used that power and like yeah, I couldn't imagine like squabbling and then getting caught by the bunch because you've argued and disagreed and like both kind of half wheeled each other into nothingness and no one wins.
I think
Um,
that's why the conversation happened with a kilometer to go. It was like
yeah,
we can't be arguing now.
yeah. Start arguing at 10k and you like
Yeah,
accidentally lose 2 minutes.
yeah,
Oh no, oh that would be bad. But you brought up world champs. Obviously, you did world track champs,
yes,
and you took victory in the points race.
that's
Um,
correct.
how was that? Because yeah, Australia has a kind of interesting history with the points race. I'd certainly remember Cam Meyer just like just eclipsing the field, like just taking 3 laps as if it was nothing, and like the easiest win I've ever seen. Um, tell me it was that easy for you.
I hope it looked that easy for me. I hope on the videos it all looked that easy, and I was chilling the entire time, but I definitely was not chilling the entire time. I my 20-minute heart rate for that race was 191, which for me personally was quite high. I think it was the whole effort and the whole mix of nerves and sort of like the feeling, or like, this, I could actually win this. I was sort of confident heading into that points race. I got fifth in the elimination a couple days before, and that elimination race, I never went into it fresh. We actually had our bronze final for the team pursuit about 10 minutes beforehand. It went our bronze final, and then the gold final, and then our elimination final. So I was throwing my bike at the mechanic, having him change it, running into getting changed into my bunch skin suit, and my drug tester was running after me as well. So her and I were running back and forth. And she followed me into the bathrooms, and I had to like take a good like minute and a bit to explain to her, I'm not actually going bathroom. I just need to get changed. Like, I have another race to do. So that was a bit of the whole stress thing, and I had one lap around the infield just to roll my legs over after the team pursuit, and then I was straight back on. So to get fifth in that elimination after all of that beforehand, I was like, you know what, like, even without fresh legs and not a proper warm up or anything, like, I was still able to get fifth. So that gave me a lot of confidence heading to the points race. I was definitely thinking like a top 5 was doable. And European track racing is very different to Australian racing. They race really high on the track in Europe, and we can never understand why. Like, why are we rolling around above the blue line? In Australia, we're always all down low, and we're just in a pace line, just chopping turns. We never go that high up on the track for that long of a time. So when we rolled out and we're 2 laps into this race, and suddenly everyone's swung up high and people are doing like dive bombs down and then chopping straight back up, I was like, this is way too dangerous for my liking. A crash is bound to happen, and it's 2 laps. So I just sort of rode in nice and low and did a half lap turn, just not hard at all, like just sort of like tempo, in the hopes to sort of like bring everyone back down. So we restart in the line and everything again. And I sort of partially swung up, and then I looked back just to see who was behind me, and no one was behind me. And I had to think maybe like 15 meters on the group. And I sort of contemplated a bit. I was like, it's 78 laps to go. I'm by myself. I don't really want to do this. Like, I'm more than happy to sit and wait for the sprints and go for the sprints and position myself really well for the sprints. That was what I was confident in, and that's how I sort of won the national points race and the Oceania points race. Like, taking laps was actually, I've never taken a lap on a field before until the Worlds. I've never done that before. Um, and I never imagined myself doing it individually either. I'm not a very good individual pursuiter or time trialer. I'm not the best at all of that, but I sort of had my coach's voice in the back of my head, and it was sort of telling me just go for it, like it's the world champs, like just do something, like actually ride hard. So I sort of wound it up. I didn't really sort of attack. I didn't want it to make it that dramatic and just sort of like have everyone be like, oh crap, she's like going for it. I just sort of wounded it up and just sort of rode a good hard pace and sort of panicked a little. I was like, oh no, I'm doing this. I don't really want to do this. It was a lot of like chatting in my head happening. So I started going for it, and I didn't really look back for a while, for like a couple laps, and then I sort of glanced over and I could see them half a lap behind me, and I sort of knew at that half lap point you sort of get stuck there for a couple laps and you just have to make it through those ones before you start seeing the back of the bunch on the same straight as you. So I just kept with it, and I made sure to not join the bunch until after the sprint, so I got the sprint points and then I got the 20 points on top. And it actually took me a while after the sprint to get onto the back of them because counterattacks was happening after the sprint and they were just going for it. And at that point, I was like, I can't kick again. I just have to ride this tempo. Otherwise, I'll go fully into the red zone and I'll just blow myself up. So I got back onto the bunch, and that next 30 laps, I can't tell you who won what sprints or where I was or what I was doing. All I knew was I just had to be towards the front when the sprint happened, and then when the next sprint happened, I would just drift slowly backwards just to recover and make sure I was sort of out of trouble. And then after that sort of 30 lap sort of middle section, and we get towards like the last half of the race, I was like, you know what, I have to be sort of switched on now. Like I have to pay attention. And then the second lap started happening. There was a couple riders, I think 2 went off the front and they had a bit of a gap, and I was getting nervous, but I sort of wanted to take someone with me to work with me. I didn't want to do it by myself again to shut down that gap and jump across. And I saw the Italian rider. She had it really high on the track and she was winding it up really nicely. And I thought, you know what, this is good for me. I'll jump on her. She did this huge dive down and I followed through. She pulled a turn and then I went through, did my turn, and I swung up and I looked behind and I was sort of in the middle. There was no one like on my wheel, but there was a group coming across. So I sort of kept going, got caught by them. And all I remember was it was me and this Canadian and a couple others that were chopping through turns. But it was mainly me and this Canadian that was pulling really hard turns on the front to sort of bridge that gap. And that lap, I don't even know when we attacked and went off the front, but it took at least 20 laps for that lap to join back together and get that lap actually. And that was just hell. It was just dragging on and on and on. And it was harder than the first lap. And I just remember just making sure that I was with the group when they made that lap, because I knew, you know, I got my 20 points, I got my 5 points from the sprint, and then if I got this 20, then I'd be pretty much set. And that's all I have to do. I was like, just don't get dropped, and just make sure I'm with them when they get it. So when it got to about that, like 8 laps to go, and I could see that we were going to make the catch and I wasn't going to get dropped at that point, then I sort of started getting really, really confident. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm actually going to win this. And yeah, we made the catch, I think, with 2 laps to go or 2.5 laps to go. And yeah, I was able just to sit up that last lap and then just really take it in. And I think that was sort of the biggest moment for me, was watching everyone else still sprint towards the line and still have to like fight amongst themselves. And I'm just like, roll across the line last with my hands in the air. Like, what better way to do it? That was really, really cool.
Yeah, definitely. 'Cause, like, how much in a points race are you calculating? Because, like, from what I gather, like, there is a scoreboard, but, like, I don't know how often you're able to even look at it because, A, you're racing, like, and it's clearly the scoreboard's not on the track, so you have to look away from where your competitors are just to get a glimpse that probably you're getting, half a second to look at it you probably can't analyze. You just having to like go, okay, these are the three closest countries to me. Follow that skin suit because it's worlds. That makes it easier, I guess. It's not like a nationals where it's like you'll have three riders from the same team and like any of them could be the other person if you're not paying attention. Like, yeah, I guess, yeah. How much time are you kind of analyzing the race in your head, and how much are you just getting stuck in and grafting?
I never looked at the scoreboard, which is probably
Okay.
a little bit of a lesson. I definitely look at the scoreboard at nationals and Oceanias, and where the scoreboard is just a little bit higher up from the track. So when you go onto the straight, you just sort of have to prop your head up a little bit more just to look up, and you sort of have to get lucky that it's on your name. So sometimes it flicks over to the next slide, and then you're not actually on that slide. There's other riders and other points scores there. So you sort of have to get lucky that when you've looked up that your name's there. I sort of was watching a little bit when the sprints were happening. Just you sort of look and be like, okay, this rider's been super consistent, and she must have a decent amount of points and this and that. So it's sort of, you also don't want to fully rely on the scoreboard because sometimes it's not updated correctly, or the commissaires go back and make a decision on a sprint that may have been a little bit iffy and it's not super reliable. So you're sort of just keeping in your head, as you were saying, like you just watch the skin suits and you're like, yeah, this rider, they would be up there in points, and then you're sort of managing who's winning and then where you're placing. So say if you're coming second in every sprint and there's a different person beating you each time, then you know that you'll be roughly up there in second or even winning as well, if there's just different people rotating who's winning what. And you definitely know, like, if someone's winning so many sprints back to back, then they're going to be super, super high on points. So it's a little bit of paying attention in the race and then looking at the scoreboard. There's definitely, you have your coaches on the side of the track and they're yelling whatever. As you can tell, I had no clue. You definitely cannot hear anything that they're saying. I'm sure it was fully useful stuff to know in the race, but there's too much noise in the background. Too much.
Yeah, because I guess that's the weird thing for us as viewers, is that we're omniscient relative to the riders. Like, we know all the information because we've seen it and we've seen the graphics, and maybe the graphics wrong, but we know quite close to the truth. And it's coming across that, like, the riders, you're kind of having to, it's more vibes than accurate information.
Yeah,
and
it's that feeling.
But then the commentary's like, oh, why have they done that? It's like, well, probably because they think they've got to chase this, because they think that rider's close, but they don't know, like, because they don't know absolutely. You kind of know relative truths.
Yeah, and you don't want to take a gamble at Junior Worlds and be like, no, I don't have to chase that. You just sort of, if you have that feeling, you're like, yeah, that rider has to be pretty close on the same points I am, then you go chase it. It's Junior Worlds. You don't want to pick and choose what's happening.
Yeah, because I've now got visions of someone being like, that's fine, like, they can take a lap, it won't hurt me, and then watching it back on the highlights later that day, I'm like, oh yeah, I should have chased that, really. Like, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
That's mad. But, like, I understand that in your Instagram post about it, you dedicated that victory. Is that something you can talk us through? Because I must admit, I don't know the story, but I'm very interested to learn what the tribute was for, really.
Yeah, so my very first time that I went to Europe, I was 15 years old, and I went with a team from Perth, and I had no idea who the riders were. I only met one of the girls at one of the competitions, and we really hit it off together as friends. And she sent me a message about a couple weeks later, and she was like, hey, do you want to go to Europe with us? And I was like, I do, but we have to talk about it. So I got sort of invited with them to go and race with them. And, my parents were super supportive. And, I don't think many parents would let their 15-year-old girl go to the opposite side of the world by herself with people that she sort of knows but doesn't really know. So I went with them, and there was 5 kids, and the oldest one was 17, I think, 17, and I was 15 at the time, and we went with one of the parents as a female sort of chaperone, and then this sort of I wouldn't say classify him as an adult. He definitely was a little bit more immature than the rest of us kids with the jokes and the 1 kilo bag of M&Ms that he would be eating before bed. But his name was Connor, and he was a really big influence on all of us kids, and he just made the trip really enjoyable. We had really good banter with him and everything, and I had just met him, and I had known him for the week and a half we were in Europe, and we went out riding, all of us kids together, and he was taking us to this hill that he knew in Belgium from when he used to race and compete in Belgium, and we were just following him towards this hill, and he didn't look when it came to this sort of T-intersection crossroad, and he rode out, and this truck came from the opposite side of the road and sort of T-boned him, and it just sort of like shattered us. We were like, holy crap, like this just happened. And you had 5 kids all under 17 who just witnessed this, and one of them sort of had to turn with the truck to sort of avoid it because he got really close to it, and he actually hit the truck on the side and fell. Fortunately, he was okay physically. He was okay. He got back up straight away. I guess it's also the adrenaline that hits you, that you've just seen this truck that's traveling 80 k's an hour. It was an 80k zone for them. Just T-bone one of his closest friends. Again, I only knew him for the week and a half, but it was enough to make a huge impact on my life. And we all just stopped and like threw our bikes to the side, and the driver of the truck obviously stopped, and he only spoke French and we only spoke English, and it was really hard to sort of communicate what we were doing, and we had no idea what to do. He was on the ground, unconscious, and we were just all super stressed in that situation, and a couple of the riders sort of froze. Like, you don't know how you're going to react when you're thrown into that situation. And, me and one of the boys was probably the most logical in that moment. We had to sort of direct the traffic of the road and then try our best we could with Connor, who was on the ground. We didn't know what we were doing, and it was hard. And obviously we called the ambulance, and I was sort of in communications with the other chaperone back at the house, sort of sending the location and saying what's happened and this and that. And the ambulance, I think, took 15 minutes to get there. It felt like hours, and unfortunately they couldn't save him. And that changes you when you're 15 years old and you've just seen this happen. And even though it's someone who I wasn't super personally attached to, it had, that week and a half had enough to make such an impact on my life. And it sort of made me want to push the pedals with him as well. So both of us turn the pedals together, both of us do the efforts, both of us share the podium. And yeah, it changed all of our lives, like all 5 of us, and even the female chaperone. It just changed us forever. And I think we all share that sort of bond together, and it's sort of indestructible. You always have some sort of respect for them. You always have that care factor for them. Like, I don't really see them that often because they live in Perth, and some of them I'm not in super close contact with, but whenever you see each other, you just share that sort of love for them. And I really wanted to show him and ride in memory of him. And he was from Perth, and when I won that national title as well, it was also huge for me to win. And his family was there, and his family got to see me win, and I met his family for the first time. Like, I text them every now and then to just check in and see how they're going, and they always want an update on me and how I'm doing cycling and everything. So that was also really special for me. And then to win worlds, I was like, I'm standing on the podium, the medals around my neck, but it's your win. Like, yeah, it was a big moment for me, and it's really defined me as a person, and it's sort of shaped the way that I appreciate things more, like just the little things, and sort of the bigger things that I would stress about in the past sort of don't phase me as much, because you have seen sort of the bigger problems that can occur, and you're just sort of like, you know what, like, I can be more appreciative of this, or it's not the end of the world. So yeah, that's sort of the story behind it.
Yeah, that's really touching actually, and yeah, as you said, like riding, it almost feels like you're riding for someone else as much as
Yeah,
yourself, and that makes you so much more powerful as a rider, I think. And yeah, it's just to go through that, as you said, like it does make you appreciate all the little things, because there's worse things that can happen. You
yeah,
know, you get a puncture that in a race, like yeah, that's nothing really. Like,
yeah. You can't change it.
and
Like, you just wait for the car, get your wheel, and just keep going.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It has. Obviously I don't want to be insensitive, but like, has that hill been used in races that you've done in Belgium? Because you have done quite a few like Comessas and other races, like you did the Junior Tour of Flanders, I think.
Yes,
Yes,
that's
you did. Like, has that part of your route featured in a race?
no, it hasn't. We have raced near that town,
Hmm.
and I have gone back to that place, and I have gone and seen it. Like, I every year I've gone, actually. Every year I've been to Belgium 3 times. So that was the first year,
Hmm.
and then the last 2 years I've always gone back to that place, and that town has actually set up a little, they've put in a little cross, and there's always flowers there by his name, so it's always really special just to come and see that and just sort of sit with him. And I normally just fill him in on just my achievements, and then what everyone else is doing, like all the four other kids, like what else they're doing and how they're going. So it's just sort of nice to have that conversation. I always speak of him as if he's just still in Belgium. Like, that's
Yeah.
just, he always loved Belgium. He loved racing there. He really enjoyed being there. So I think, yeah, just, we haven't raced there. I haven't gone to the hill that he was taking us to. I haven't ridden on those sort of same roads where he crashed. So I normally like to stay clear of that, but I do enjoy coming and visiting him as much as I can.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that. Like, as I said, like clearly it's a very difficult subject, and I appreciate how open you're able to be, and thank you. I want to move on. It feels kind of
That's okay.
tricky how to move on, but yeah, like obviously you did the Tour of Flanders. Like,
Yes.
what what was that like to race as a junior? Because again, like that's a big junior race.
Yeah.
It's, as you said, like the junior style of racing on the track is slightly different. Is it as different on the road?
It's a little different. There's definitely more of the team aspect in those races. You don't really get that in under 19s in Australia. Like, you definitely get that team aspect as you step up into under 23s and elites.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't say it's that much different on the road. The only main factor is you have a lot more riders in Belgium racing, and you have different courses and traffic furniture and this and that. Like, in Australia, they definitely like to stay clear of they try to minimize the speed bumps, they try to minimize this and that. In Belgium, they're not really phased by that. They just say, "Yep, race, off you go." Like cobbles doesn't matter, just go. Tour of Flanders though, probably one of my proudest races. I think that was it beats the world champs. It was I love Tour of Flanders, and I suffered so hard. It was so hard, but I enjoyed it so much. Yeah, it was. We did a couple times reconning the course, so I sort of did know the course sort of well. I guess it's really different when you have 150 girls all trying to fight for position going up into the narrow hills. There was no cobbled climbs, but we had a like sort of a 3 kilometer cobbled section, which was very, very hard cobbles. But we did have really short, sort of 1 minute punchy hills, like the Wolvenberg and everything, and we went up it multiple times. So it was a very hard course. The cobbles actually weren't that hard. It was sort of a nice little break. I think a lot of the times I was counting down the kilometers. I was like, okay, only 3 more kilometers to the cobbles, then I can sort of relax a bit. Then it sort of went steady. Like it was still hard, but it was just steady rather than all of a sudden like on off punchy attacks, all of that happening. I love that race. I was definitely there when the winning move happened. I sort of watched it right away from me. There's always those moments in races where you're there, you've done everything, you know that they're going to attack, you're near their wheel, you can go and you can't go, like you can't do anything about it. You're just sort of watching them right away and you're like, I don't have the legs for that. They're just going so hard. And yeah, I think when that attack did happen, I started seeing stars. I was like suffering. All I remember was just watching the wheel in front of me, and I was like, just don't let that wheel go. Like, whatever you do, don't let that wheel go. And that girl that was pulling decided this like breakaway of 10 sort of formed. So the 2 went off the front that went on to get first and second, and then this breakaway of sort of 10 sort of stuck, and I was last in that 10. And I remember looking at the wheel in front of me and I was suffering. I was not on the wheel at all. I was just sort of holding that little, maybe a wheel length gap, and I was just holding it. I wasn't shutting it. And I did that like little cheeky look behind just to see if there was anyone else behind me, and I looked back and I couldn't see anyone. So I was like, I have to stay on her wheel. And she went to swing off to like ask me to come through, and I just shook my head. I couldn't yell and tell her, no, I can't help you. I was just head down. I was just like, no, please, just take me there. Like, I was suffering so hard. But the atmosphere in Belgium is just insane. Like, you had people almost in every section of the course, and they were all just yelling and just encouraging you. And it was even more special when you hear your name being yelled by people that you don't know and you haven't personally met or spoken to, and to have them know you and just makes you feel that little bit important, that little bit famous in a country that you're not from or anything. And they did actually interview me when we roll up and do team presentation, and that was pretty cool. They were just talking about, obviously I was in the national championship kit. They were talking about the kit and how we prepared for Tour of Flanders and this and that. And, you know, we don't do many team presentations in Australia at all. That sort of whole environment is very new to us. And, you know, it may not seem like a big thing, but for us it was just massive just to have, you know, I think it was 140 something starters, maybe 150 starters, and we never get that in Australia. We don't have that many riders. Like our national championships, I think our road race had 38 or 35 riders. So you jump from big fields. It feels so surreal, and it feels so much more important, and you're just sort of shocked to be there. And, you know, you cannot replicate that same feeling here. And it just, I loved it. It was so great.
yeah, and like that winning move, like of course it went away. Like it had Paolo Ortiz, who's the world junior champion, and
Yeah,
Megan Ardens, who's the world junior time trial champion.
yeah,
Like I think Paola came like second or third at Worlds in the time trial as well. Like they're both big engines, good
yeah,
riders. Like, I mean, it'd be great to go with them, but if ever there's a move that's going to get away, I mean, two world
yeah,
champs probably is
yeah.
going to be the one in it. Like, but like, yeah, that's crazy. And you mentioned earlier, well, there's one thing I want to go back to about track, but I'll get to that. Um,
Yeah,
you mentioned that you're going to be racing in Belgium this year. Like,
yes.
what
Well,
are
next
the?
year.
I say, well, by the time this comes out, it will be this year already. But yeah, it's weird Christmassy time that we're recording. Um, what are the plans for 2026? Is there a team announcement coming? I don't think I saw one on
There
your
was.
Instagram.
I'm on
I missed it.
I'm on just a club team, Kukens Redant, and they have a nice
Yes.
team house in Belgium, which obviously when you come from Australia, the main issue is accommodation and the cost of that, and especially when I want to stay there for 6 months is the plan. Um,
Mm.
so that all adds up. Obviously, accommodation costs of them having a team house for the international riders is really really helpful, and I'm really excited to ride with them and then just sort of get myself into the under 23s because it's a huge step up, obviously from under 19s into that
Mm.
elite field, and you're sort of just wanting to survive rather than go for the win. It's such a shift in character where you're so used to being really dominant and having the legs to do multiple attacks and follow moves even if they don't work out. Where else when you're going into a bigger field and people who are a lot older than you, it's sort of you have to be a lot more conservative and a lot more wise with how you use your
Mm.
energy and trying to manage all of that. So I'm really excited for the opportunities that they will bring. I will spend the first sort of 4 months of the year in Australia, and we have our national championships in January, and then the Oceanias for track, and then our national championships for track in March. So I'm sort of looking for that April to September period. So I escape Australian winter
Mm.
and head over to Europe for another Europe summer. Um, so I'll do a lot of the Australian races before Europe and then head to Europe. That's why Australia likes to cram in all of our main nationals and Oceania titles right at the start of the year or towards the end of the year when everyone's sort of back from Europe. So for us, we don't have a set off season because you come
Mm.
back from Europe, say hypothetically in September, and then the first national track event is in December, and then that sort of carries on your road nationals in January, so it all sort of piles up, and you're just back at it again in Europe. So it's just sort of continuing through that, and yeah, it's all full on. Your racing
Mm.
calendar's full on, and you get sort of older, and you get able to sort of focus on specific races that you want to pick, and then it sort of becomes a lot more relaxed in the sense of you're not as traveling to and from and racing this and track and then back to road and then track and then back to road.
Yeah, yeah, it's incredible. And like Kirkens is a team I've heard of. I think
Yeah,
Imogen Cotter used to ride for them when she was a rider. I certainly looking at their team roster on screen, which is why you saw me look away. It's a very diverse team because you got an Aussie is listed, Lauren Bates, as well as some Belgian riders, obviously a Norwegian, some Latvian riders, an Argentinian rider even, which is very unheard of in the women's side of things. I know there was Sepulveda and I feel like someone a sprinter um, from Argentina always used to be in the men's side, but certainly in the women's, like yeah, South America is very underserved. I feel.
yeah,
So yeah, it looks like a great and diverse team, and that you're going to learn a lot, not just cycling wise, but also like life and world wise, and yeah, that seems really exciting.
It's so exciting when you just go over there, and obviously there will be riders that are older than me, and you're so used to that under 19 environment, and then when you branch out to people that are older than you, and you're picking up their skills that off the bike, whatever they may be, and their sort of mannerisms and how they conduct themselves, you're sort of learning off them and sort of leeching off what they've already experienced. And I know that I do come from a lot of experience being to Europe already 3 times and sort of experiencing a lot of things that someone my age wouldn't have. But then you have others who are older who have also done the same thing and have been in bigger races and bigger fields, and you're sort of just learning as much as you can from them, and heading into races with more of a team plan and this and that, and you're also learning how to function as a really strong team rider, which you don't really get to do in under 19s. So I think it would be good for me just to expand more on my learning and my skills as well.
Yeah, awesome. We are actually really close to the hour mark, so I will cram these last couple of questions in. First was actually when you're talking about track and you did the TP and then had to rush off and get ready for the elimination. And you mentioned that there's 2 different skin suits, and that just never crossed my mind. Like, without revealing like too many trade secrets, I don't know how much you know about the construction of your own skin suit, but like, what's the difference between a TP like skin suit and then the bunch skin suit?
The team pursuit, or like your timed event skin suit, has a slot to slip your number in, so it's more aerodynamic rather than pinning your numbers on, and that can only fit one number in it. And obviously in a bunch event you need to have 2 numbers, so then you switch to your regular skin suit, which is what you see in the pro peloton and everything, and you just pin your numbers on on like both numbers on either side. So that's the different when you have to sort of change between.
Did you pre-pin or have to pin on the deck, like in that 10-minute window?
I had to pin on in that moment because it was I used the same number for my team pursuit, and then it's a bit easier to pin really well when the skin suit's on you. Obviously it's not that time efficient, but it's a lot easier to have that aero number pinning when it's actually on the rider in that like hunched riding position.
Yeah, just I'd have stabbed myself trying to do that, like in a panic. Like, safety pins, that would have gone through my thumb easily. Like,
it was really good because our
track is fine.
Yeah, our coach, he was really relaxed and he was super composed, and he would just pin it on and just like get on with it, and there was no stress coming off from him, and it just made me less stressed because he wasn't stressed. So I was like, yeah, it's fine. We have like 2 minutes, but yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's just wild to me. Like, yeah, having to rush it around. Because also, I was like, whilst you were talking about it, I was like, what other differences could there be? I was like, maybe they're one sleeve less, or like half sleeves rather than full sleeves. Because like in a TP, like 4 minutes, if you overheat in 4 minutes, it's not the end of the world. Like, you can have a little discomfort. Whereas in a bunch race, you probably want the sleeves not to be on to then be a bit cooler. But I'm like, would that be a difference? And then again, like if you crash, then that's going to go through your arms as well. And wood isn't known to be slidey. Like if you slide against some wood, it's going to cause some friction and hurt and
splinters.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the splinters. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen. I'm going to hate myself for this. You're probably too young to have experienced. There's a Malaysian sprinter called Azizul Hasni Awang.
I know who that is.
He did the Kieran and got like a huge chunk of like Copenhagen like wood stuck through his leg, and like it was.
Oh no!
It was. I don't want to oversell it, but I feel like it was probably a foot of wood just pierced his leg. I was like, yeah. That will be on screen for everyone's delight right now. My video editing skills can cope with that. So if you want to see it yourself, you'll have to rewatch, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a big one. But yeah, so how can people keep up with you in the metaphorical sense of finding out what you're up to in Europe, what you're up to in Australia, see all these glamorous events that I was going to talk about and never got a chance to? Like, yeah, how can people keep up with all your goings on?
Definitely my Instagram. So Anna Dubier, that's my Instagram page. I will be posting a lot of stories and a lot of before races and racing posts. I think that's the easiest way to keep up with me metaphorically, as you were saying.
Yeah, because like I think by the time this comes out, you'll have just done the Tour Down Under, or have done it in the last couple of weeks. So congratulations on that. Well done for some amazing riding. Whatever happens, I have no idea. Hopefully this doesn't age horrendously. But like, what are your kind of, we'll make this the last full question. Like, what are your ambitions, aims for that race? Have you got any goals, or are you just gonna like rock up and be like, in the sort of Aussie fashion of like, oh, I'll be all right, like just turn up and see what happens?
Definitely the Aussie fashion. I'd definitely be like, yeah, it's all right. It's just another race. It's not that big of a deal. Just sort of gaslight myself into thinking like it's just a minor race, just another Australian race. Like it's not that major. It's not that important, and just sort of take the stress off a little bit. I don't have any full goals for that race. Obviously, number one goal is to survive and make it to the end and stay in the time cut. So there's some really, really hard stages. Stage 2 and 3 are extremely hilly and extremely hard, and I'm definitely not a great climber, but I'm definitely going to suffer myself up those hills and do the best I absolutely can and suffer in the Adelaide heat. So it'll be a huge learning experience because you're in with the pros, the best, and just sort of fangirling a little bit in the middle of the peloton. That would be me. That would be me. Just, if you see a photo with me sitting behind the world champ, just know I pre-planned that. I was on that. I was like, I'm gonna put myself here and I'm gonna get my one photo and that's it. I can go home now.
Nice. Yeah, just complete the neutralize zone. That'll do. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That's me done.
Wow. And you mentioned gaslighting. I don't know if anyone's told you, gaslighting isn't actually real. Sorry, it's a joke I've been planning a while to do someone, and you mentioned it. I was like, this will work. Probably didn't land perfectly, but you know. So yeah, I can't wait to see how you get on in the Tour Down Under, in just everything in your whole career. It sounds amazing, and you know we've talked for over an hour now off minimal notes on my side, I will tell you. So yeah, yapping is definitely a strong suit of yours, so thank you.
I have been told I do talk a lot.
Nah, it's all good, and yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, this has been awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Well, there you go. That was me and Anna Dubier having a good old chat, proper yap. Well, if you've made it this far, congratulations. You have better stamina than I do. And if you're on the turbo, that's a good hour of base miles for you for the upcoming season. So well done there. Yeah, we got some hugely great guests, and we are careering towards number 100. So definitely look out for things we've got planned for episode 100. But until next time, we'll see you around.